You're tuned in to the Leadership Signal, the leadership podcast for voice actors, creative professionals, and smallish businesses. I'm your host, Rob Sogomonian. So, today on the Leadership Signal, I want to focus on what I think is one of the most important, if not the most important, factor in starting a business. Whether you're a voice actor like me, a creative professional in a different genre of creativity, or you're a smallish business, somebody who's just kind of trying to get started, build something from the ground up, get out of the day to day kind of hamster wheel that we all feel like we're on when we're working for somebody else. And that is, what is your why? Now, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of this concept before. It's not new. It's not my idea. It's not even the idea of the individual that kind of taught me about it. But it is, I think, incredibly important when you are talking about starting something and motivating yourself in a certain sense to achieve a set of goals. So, for example, um, if you're starting a business and you just want to make a bunch of money or you just want to stop working for somebody else, is that really going to drive you forward when you are getting into those lulls in business where things aren't quite moving as fast as you'd like them to move? Maybe you're not bringing in enough income, or you're just getting started. You don't even know which direction to really go. What is driving you? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's a hugely important thing to really kind of think about. And it's also something that will very likely evolve over time. So, while I bring it up now, while I bring it up kind of at the beginning of this podcast's duration, I am almost positive that if you start thinking about it now, if you've never thought about it before, or maybe you have thought about it before, but maybe you kind of came up with an answer and wrote it down, and that's just kind of been your driving factor. Um, I can almost guarantee you, if you haven't stewed on it for a little bit, it will change over the course of your career in whatever it is that you're pursuing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just let you. I've done a lot of looking into what my why is. Like, why do I do anything that I do? Why did I get into real estate? Why did I work for my dad? Why did I pursue software engineering? Why did I want to be a video game developer? It all really stems from the same why. I am an empowerer. I love empowering other people. Um, Kind of a humble brag, not meant to be a humble brag. Whenever I've really kind of thought about doing something and I really focused on getting there, it's, I don't want to say it's easy for me to succeed, but it's very hard to deter me from pursuing a goal that I really, really want to go after. And so for me, being able to empower other people to kind of, I don't have, I guess the reason, let me tell you about the reason for that is I don't let that little voice in my head, the one that nags you and says, are you doing the right thing? Maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you should just go back and get a regular job. I mean, yes, at times I've had to go back and get regular jobs, and yet I still single focus on what the primary objective is, whether that be real estate, whether that be voice acting currently, or acting of any kind currently. Um, it really comes down to, why are you doing that? That little voice is always there saying you're not good enough. Maybe you're in the wrong industry. Maybe this isn't, really what you want to be doing. It's there. It's there for me. When I get up to public speak, I'm a very good public speaker. I still get the butterflies. A lot of people local here probably don't believe me when I tell them that I get nervous when I get up in front of a group of 130 people at one of our weekly marketing meetings and either pitch a karaoke night or pitch another event that's related to a scholarship foundation or something like that. But I do. It's a group of my friends, it's a room full of my friends and colleagues, and yet it's never easy to get up and speak. It's always a little bit intimidating because you don't know what's going to happen. You're doing it live, as the saying goes. But my why drives me through that fear of, failure or fear of not getting the message across. Why did I start this podcast? I mean, it's still intimidating to jump into the booth every week and put together a episode on leadership. I am by no means, I don't consider myself a leadership expert. I think that I have some unique perspectives on leadership. I think that I can help empower people through teaching what I know about it and kind of sharing a little bit about my journey and how I've approached things, especially from a solopreneur, entrepreneur kind of perspective, as opposed to leadership for a larger group or a larger company. And yet, I'm still doing the thing. You just got to get out of your head. If you feel like you have some value to bring, why are you doing it? Why are you bringing the value? And for me, it's always been about empowerment. I remember back in the day when, I first started really working for my dad, I didn't really, this concept wasn't even in my brain. I hadn't ever considered why I was working for my dad because it was my dad and I didn't really have a choice, right? Like that's kind of my why back then. Um, and yet, I found that when I was my dad ran, if you didn't listen to the intro episode, my dad ran a termite company for 49 years. I kind of started working for him when I was, I would say, officially 16, 17, just kind of doing the family business thing. I wasn't like a W-2 full-time employee working for him, but your family's running a company. You show up at the office, they ask you to help with stuff, you help. So when I could show up and help and give my insight to things, that's when I felt the most validated, or the most useful. When I eventually started getting my licenses to start working in that field, to start doing chemical applications, to start doing inspections and coming to homeowners and other clients and saying, here's what's wrong with the house, here's what you need to do, here's why, these are the important things. I mean, a person's house is usually one of their biggest investments, their biggest financial investments. So when you're bringing them a report that has, let's say 1 to 30 things that are wrong with it, with maybe a price tag that's pretty hefty, being able to use that as a way to empower them to kind of make sure that the house is in order, as opposed to saying, here's what's wrong, sucks to be you, pay me money so I can fix the problem. Yeah, some of the stuff they need to take care of, but going over the things and being able to explain it to them so that they feel empowered to say, yeah, I think items 1, 3, and 7 we should do. I think we can let number 2 and 4 go for a little bit longer. I mean, that's what I got value out of. That's where I felt the most impactful. That was working for my dad. At the same time, again, if you haven't seen the original episode or the first episode from this podcast, I also was doing software development. Like my passion was always software. I wanted to be a video game developer, and I wanted to empower people because I was empowered through playing video games. Specifically, the ones that have the rich stories, the ones where you feel like you're in control of the narrative. That's what I wanted to develop. There were a couple of studios that were making games like that, and I wanted to emulate them. The principal one being Bungie Software back in the day before they were acquired by Microsoft. But they made a game called Marathon. They made a game called Myth, The Fallen Lords, and sequels to both of those. And then they started working on a small game that maybe you heard of called Halo. And all of those had very, very engaging, deep stories where you were the protagonist and you were driving the narrative. And through that, I learned that, if you want to go do something, just go and like figure out a way to plan around getting to where you need to go and go do it. Again, in the introductory episode for this podcast, I talked about getting my group of friends into the Electronic Entertainment Expo, E3, which was a thing for a long time. And that was directly related to working with Bungie, like playing Bungie games and other games. Blizzard Entertainment made some great games, Warcraft, back before World of Warcraft was a thing, a couple of other games as well. And games like I can't remember the studio that made it, but there was a game called Nox, the Baldur's Gate games before Baldur's Gate 3. Larian Studios did actually, I don't think it was Larian. I think it was a different studio. In any case, the games that have stories and narratives really kind of taught me how to take initiative. And if there's something that I wanted to do it. At the same token, movies. I loved movies growing up, especially the ones that had some kind of a moral or some kind of a overarching theme of, the underdog coming through and kind of winning at the end. Those things really inspired me to just kind of do what I wanted to do and not listen to anybody else. Again, in the introductory episode, I talk about Back to the Future and the quote from that movie, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. That became a huge driving force in my life. And that's why I've had so many different careers. And it all comes down to how much am I empowering others? My real estate license. I wanted to get into real estate after being in, termite inspections and repair because I wanted to empower people to be able to invest in their biggest financial decision that they're probably going to make, or one of the biggest financial decisions that they're going to make, the next one being their next house, etc. And I wanted to bring that value to people. And so I got into real estate because of that. And then I got promoted into leadership positions in the real estate company that I was working for. And now I was empowering other real estate agents to help more clients than I could help on my own. So I was kind of scaling my empowerment why. Voice acting, same thing. It goes almost back to the kind of video games and Hollywood, movies thing. I want to use my voice to empower other people to realize that they can accomplish anything that they want to accomplish. And that's actually a major reason for this podcast. I love getting in front of people. I love answering questions. I love helping people figure out ways to do things and just get out of their own heads. I get into my own head sometimes. I mean, I project, a lot of confidence. I'm very confident. And yet, I'm not arrogant, or at least I don't think I am. I'm not trying to be. But it's really about kind of turning that voice off or listening to it to a point, like to the point where it can help and not hurt. And then if everything is still, if all the pros still outweigh the cons, proceeding forward in a way that makes sense. So really quickly before I get into kind of the meat of this episode, and I don't know that this is going to be a super long episode, but I do have a couple of things that I want to touch on. I just got back, I guess, a couple of weeks ago from the One Voice conference in Dallas, Texas, which is a voiceover conference for voice actors, obviously. And one of the workshops that I took was actually a business plan development seminar, and it was hosted by Bridget Reel and Jessica Matheson, and they are both fantastic, wonderful teachers. We went through legitimately, like literally building an 8-part business plan or a 7-part business plan, everything except for the financials, because that's something that we have to kind of come home and look at our own financials and figure out what that looks like. It's not something that you can really do in a group setting. Well, one of the things that we had to come up with was, number one, a 3 to 5 year vision, and number two, a mission statement. And the mission statement is quite literally your why. Like, why does your company exist? Why are you doing what you're doing? And it can be as simple as, I just want to have fun and I don't want to work for anybody else. That can be a why. There's no right answer. I have, over the years, and I actually first kind of started thinking about my why, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago when I first got into real estate. I started thinking, actually, I guess it would be closer to 10 years because, no, it would have been 6 or 7 years. So I started thinking about my why 6 or 7 years ago. I read a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. Highly recommend reading this book if you haven't. I'm sure you've heard of it, and I'm sure you've heard of Simon Sinek if you're in any kind of a leadership or business position. Maybe you haven't. Maybe I'm the reason you're going to be introduced to this wonderful gentleman who is all about inspiring others and, similar to me, helping them kind of get into what they want to do and why they want to do it. So this book, Start With Why, I'm going to dive into it in a little bit, really kind of got me to start thinking and start distilling my why. What is it that I really like? Why am I doing what I do? And that's really where I started thinking about working for my dad, doing my own software development stuff, constantly getting promoted into leadership roles where, I worked for a tavern for a little bit when there was no software or no technology in the area that I was living in. I got promoted to be a product manager at a tavern. Coming back home, working again for my dad, being in leadership there, going and working uh, in real estate, getting my real estate license, working for a realty company, getting promoted to a regional leadership position, a technology director, technology trainer position. Why do I keep getting promoted? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And it kind of started with me thinking, well, I just kind of want to make a little bit of money and then I want to, not have to work for anybody else. But why? Why do I want to make money? Why do I not want to work for somebody else? I can still I can empower people at that job, right? Like I can make money at a different job. I can go be a software engineer and make $300,000 a year if I wanted to. And yet that really wouldn't fulfill me. I would be making money. I'd probably be financially stable. I'd have a pretty good life. And yet I'd want more, and not in the financial sense, if that makes sense. I really kind of dove in, and it took probably a couple of years to really distill it down to empowering others. That is the essence of my why. If I am in a position where I love being a coach, I love helping counsel people into getting to where they need to be, helping them figure out what their challenges might be and how to get around their challenges. So for me, that is my why. Every time that I help somebody else achieve a goal or even point them, even if I have them self discover which direction they need to at least start going down and inspire them to take those first steps, that is when I am the happiest and I feel the most fulfilled. It's why I started my cooking show during COVID, Cook Along Live. It was to bring people together, and it was to empower people who maybe didn't know how to cook or maybe didn't have a community where they were living to be in some kind of a community and learn how to cook all kinds of different food. And it was the gamut. Like we started with some super simple stuff, just taco night, and we went up to, ratatouille from the Disney movie Ratatouille, exactly the same way. You can look up, just look me up by name on YouTube, my full name, Robert Sogomonian. You'll find my personal channel. I've got Cook Along Live there. I've got aviation vlogs from when I got my pilot certificate, trained through that. I posted a lot of those online because I wanted to empower people to jump into something that they've always wanted to do and never had the time or the finances or the self confidence to dive into. And so if you look at almost anything that I've ever done, it's always been to empower others. Yes, I've also gotten growth out of it. I've achieved a lot of goals that I've set for myself in the service of this empowerment. I want other people to realize that, for lack of a better term, if they put their minds to it, they can probably accomplish anything. Now, the reason I brought up the business planning clinic and the mission statement, and I said that from one voice, my mission statement, it took me 30 seconds to kind of think of it, distill it down, and write it down because I've been working on this for several years. And it's probably still going to change. I don't think that this is necessarily its final form. But I wanted to read it to you really quick on this podcast just so that I can kind of memorialize it, put it out there, send the energy into the universe if that's something that you believe in. And the mission statement is my why. It can change, and the explanation for like what I'm doing can fit any mold, but the essence is empowerment. So let me just read it for you really quick. My mission statement is, and I'm just going to read the whole thing. Mission statement: this is the purpose and core values of your business. What do you stand for? Why do you exist? And what is your ikigai? And ikigai is a Japanese philosophy. You can go and look it up on Google if you want to kind of get a primer on that. It essentially means reason for being. And I'm butchering that, so please go Google it. It's Ikigai if you want to go and look it up. And I wrote down for my mission statement, I want to empower clients through my voiceover services across projects that inform, educate, and entertain to inspire them to move forward towards their hopes and dreams. And that really is the essence of why I got into voiceover. Yes, it's great to work from home. Yes, it's great to be in video games, play multiple characters. It's also if you're not an actor, it's a lot of work. Being able to switch between multiple personalities without having, you know, to be able to do it under control, I'll say. Um, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of rejection in this industry. There's a lot of rejection in real estate as well. You're constantly trying to find clients who need your service, and most of them don't. So you reach out to a lot of people and you're getting a lot of no's. When you get those yeses, it's amazing. And yet it's a lot of work to get those yeses. And the it's the difference between real estate and like voice acting. Real estate is generally a true rejection. It is what I mean by that is sometimes it's people don't want to work with you because you don't have the experience. Sometimes they know who you are, they don't like you, and they don't want to work with you. And they're not going to say that to your face, but it's a thing. Or they have a friend or a family member who is also in real estate and they want to work with their friend or family member, or you're the friend and family member and they don't want to work with you because you're the friend and family member and they don't want you to see what their finances look like. Those are all valid reasons to not want to buy real estate, or if they can't afford it, or whatever the case may be. There are a lot of valid reasons to get a no in real estate. In voiceover, it's a lot more nebulous. It's usually not about you, and it's usually not about it can be about the quality of the product that you're putting out there. All things being equal, though, let's say that your auditions are broadcast quality, the acting is top notch, it's a perfect read, you don't make any mistakes, or you do make just the right mistakes that maybe that client is looking for. It still is a subjective choice more than anything else. All things being equal, if you have the right equipment and the right setup and everything sounds great and your recording is broadcast quality and a good acting for the part that you're going for, the client might still just not identify with the read. Maybe they're looking for somebody who sounds older or younger. And that's not something that you can necessarily change. So you can not get work in voiceover, not because of any failing of yours, just because you just don't match what the client's looking for, right? It's not it's not rejection, you just weren't selected. And I've heard that in a ton of other podcasts. I'm not trying to say that I'm inventing that at all, but it really does come down to subjectivity and what the client is looking for as opposed to what you produced. So, it's not an easy thing, and yet when I can land something that is awesome and I can provide my voice for it and it helps inspire somebody to make a decision, that's when I'm the most fulfilled. That's when I'm like, I did it again. Crushed it, right? Um so I really want you, and my why doesn't necessarily have to be your why. That's the other thing. There's no right answers. That's what makes me happy. Your why might be you just want to, if you're a voice actor, you just want to give the performances of your live and you want to bring unique characters to life to do something, or maybe that's it. You just want to bring unique characters to life. You want to have 100 different roles, and you want to be like, Mel Blanc, the man with 1,000 voices, and you want them all to be unique, identifiable. That might be your why. Your why might just be, hey, I want to make enough money to survive. That's a valid why. There aren't any wrong whys. However, the reason that we start with why, plug for Simon Sinek's book. By the way, I'll put a link to this in the show notes if you want to go and check it out and potentially purchase it if you haven't gotten it already. The reason we want to start with why is because there are going to be times, especially when you're starting a business or building a business, where things are not going to go to plan. They're not going to go the way that you wanted them to go. Things are going to get slow, especially if you're starting out. It takes a bit to ramp up any kind of a business, real estate, voice acting, it doesn't matter. Doing a newspaper delivery service. There are going to be times when it's going to be slow, when you're going to feel like you're not moving forward, and you just have to keep on going. your why is going to propel you. If your why is just, I don't want to work a full-time job, I want to stay home, and I want to sleep till noon, that can be a why. And yet it might not have the same motivating potential as really coming to terms with like the why behind that. Why do you want to sleep till noon? Why do you want to stay at home? Is it just because you're lazy? I mean, that's again valid, I guess, but is there something deeper? So really start thinking about, why are you doing what you do? I do want to read a couple of passages here from Start With Why. One of them is actually the cover of the book. I have the hardback, the hardcover. So I want to read just kind of the cover flap, and it starts with, "Why do you do what you do?" And again, this book is written by Simon Sinek. Start With Why. I love Simon. I hope at some point I can get him on this podcast to dive into this a little bit more. But let's just start with this cover flap. Why do you do what you do? Why are some people and organizations more innovative, more influential, and more profitable than others? Why do some command greater loyalty from customers and employees alike? Even among the successful, why are so few able to repeat their successes over and over? People like Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, and the Wright brothers might have little in common, but they all started with why. Their natural ability to start with why enabled them to inspire those around them and to achieve remarkable things. In studying the leaders who've had the greatest influence in the world, Simon Sinek discovered that they all think, act, and communicate in the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite of what everyone else does. Sinek calls this powerful idea the golden circle, and it provides a framework upon which organizations can be built, movements can be led, and people can be inspired. And it all starts with why. Any organization can explain what it does. Some can explain how they do it, but very few can clearly articulate why. Why is not money or profit. Those are always results. Why does your organization exist? Why does it do the things it does? Why do customers really buy from one company or another? Why are people loyal to some leaders but not to others? Starting with why works in big businesses and small businesses, in the nonprofit world, and in politics. Those who start with why never manipulate, they inspire. And people follow them not because they have to, they follow because they want to. Drawing on a wide range of real-life stories, Sinek weaves together a clear vision of what it truly takes to lead and inspire. This book is for anyone who wants to inspire others or who wants to find someone to inspire them. It's not a very long book. It's about 230 pages. 231 pages if you want to go and read through it. Should be able to read it in a weekend. But it goes into, what Apple's why is, what the Wright brothers' why is. Southwest Airlines has a why. They've kind of shifted recently, and their business has kind of started declining because of it. They've changed their direction, and it's had less than ideal results. I used to fly Southwest everywhere. Now I avoid them like the plague because their business model has. I shouldn't say their business model. There's a different feeling when you show up at the airport and you're flying Southwest now than there used to be. Used to be super fun, used to be super easy to get in, get on the planes and go do what you were going to do wherever you were going to go do it. And it's gotten much more, it's gotten much less palatable for me. So I don't, anyway. But your why really, really, really informs what you do, and people can infer it, and they can smell when you're being disingenuous. In real estate, we call that commission breath, where you want the sale so bad that people can just smell it coming off of you. If you've ever worked with a pushy salesperson, or maybe even your kids, if they're asking you for something over and over again, it's that same kind of feeling where you're just kind of like, like enough guy or gal or, whoever. Um, we get it. But if you have a why and you're driven by that purpose, it comes across as much less obvious because you're not there. Like I'm not here to sell you my voice. I'm here to inspire and empower others. That is why I do what I do. That's why this podcast exists. Yeah, I'm hoping it gets me work eventually. I would love to be a spokesperson for stuff, but that's not what I'm leading with. And that's not really the point of the podcast because that's not my why. My why is empowering others. I want to read just a little bit from the first chapter here. It's kind of like the introduction chapter. And then you're just going to have to go and buy the book if you want to read more. But if you are starting a business and you haven't read this book yet, this is one of like the first things you should read and one of the first things you should really focus on. And if you haven't done any kind of business planning, like actually writing down a business plan, like going to a voiceover conference and coming up with an actual business plan, I recommend it. I really do. It'll or take an online course if anybody's doing any online business planning seminars. This one was cool because it was specific to voice acting, and that's what I'm focusing on. But it's all the same stuff. Business is all business. It doesn't matter if you're doing voice acting, if you're selling widgets, if you're a street vendor. It's all the same thing. So any kind of a business planning course would be great if you've never taken one before. But let's jump into the book really quick. This is from the end of the introduction chapter, and it's called, the title of the chapter is Why? Start with Why. There are leaders and there are those who lead. With only 6% market share in the United States and about 3% worldwide, Apple is not a leading manufacturer of home computers. Yet the company leads the computer industry and is now a leader in other industries as well. Martin Luther King's experiences were not unique, yet he inspired a nation to change. The Wright brothers were not the strongest contenders in the race to take the first manned-powered flight, but they led us into a new era of aviation and, in doing so, completely changed the world we live in. Their goals were not different than anyone else's, and their systems and processes were easily replicated. Yet the Wright brothers, Apple, and Martin Luther King stand out among their peers. They stand apart from the norm, and their impact is not easily copied. They are members of a very select group of leaders who do something very, very special. They inspire us. Just about every person or organization needs to motivate others to act for some reason or another. Some want to motivate a purchase decision. Others are looking for support or a vote. Still others are keen to motivate the people around them to work harder or smarter or just follow the rules. The ability to motivate people is not in itself difficult. It's usually tied to some external factor. Tempting incentives or the threat of punishment will often elicit the behavior we desire. General Motors, for example, so successfully motivated people to buy their products that they sold more cars than any other automaker in the world for over 77 years. Though they were the leaders in their industry, they did not lead. Great leaders, in contrast, are able to inspire people to act. Those who are able to inspire give people a sense of purpose or belonging that has little to do with any external incentive or benefit to be gained. Those who truly lead are able to create a following of people who act not because they were swayed, but because they were inspired. For those who are inspired, the motivation to act is deeply personal. They are less likely to be swayed by incentives. Those who are inspired are willing to pay a premium or endure inconvenience, even personal suffering. Those who are able to inspire will create a following of people, supporters, voters, customers, workers, who act for the good of the whole not because they have to, but because they want to. Though relatively few in number, the organizations and leaders with the natural ability to inspire us come in all shapes and sizes. They can be found in both the public and private sectors. They are in all sorts of industries, selling to consumers or to other businesses. Regardless of where they exist, they all have a disproportionate amount of influence in their industries. They have the most loyal customers and the most loyal employees. They tend to be more profitable than others in their industry. They are more innovative, and most importantly, they are able to sustain all these things over the long term. Many of them change industries. Some of them even change the world. How inspiring is that, right? I would love to change the world. The Wright brothers, Apple, and Dr. King are just 3 examples. Harley-Davidson, Disney, and Southwest Airlines are 3 more. John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan were also able to inspire. No matter from where they hail, they all have something in common. All the inspiring leaders and companies, regardless of size or industry, think, act, and communicate exactly alike. And it's the complete opposite of everyone else. What if we could all learn to think, act, and communicate like those who inspire? I imagine a world in which the ability to inspire is practiced not just by a chosen few, but by the majority. Studies show that over 80% of Americans do not have their dream job. If more knew how to build organizations that inspire, we could live in a world in which that statistic was the reverse, a world in which over 80% of people loved their jobs. People who love going to work are more productive and more creative. They go home happier and have happier families. They treat their colleagues and clients and customers better. Inspired employees make for stronger companies and stronger economies. That is why I wrote this book. Simon Sinek wrote this book. I hope to inspire others to do the things that inspire them so that together we may build the companies, the economy, and a world in which trust and loyalty are the norm and not the exception. This book is not designed to tell you what to do or how to do it. Its goal is not to give you a course of action. Its goal is to offer you the cause of action. And really what it comes down to is starting with why. Why are you doing what you're doing? You can also look on Google. There are a lot of kind of worksheets that'll help you try to distill what your why is. There are a lot of questions you can ask yourself about what your why is. But really, this is the starting point of any successful business where if you've ever met those people where you're just like, how do you do what you do? It's usually because they have a very clear idea of why they are doing what they do. So that's this week's episode. I really want you guys to kind of think about, what is your why? If you have a why, go ahead and send it over to me. I'd love to hear what your why is. Email it to me at podcast@theleadershipsignal.com. And we'll see you on the next episode. This has been The Leadership Signal, the leadership podcast for voice actors, creative entrepreneurs, and smallish businesses. And I'm your host, Rob Sogomonian. Hopefully you'll join me on the next one. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into your why, or at least my why, and kind of how that drives everything that I do. And then we're going to start talking about a couple of other things as well that will hopefully support your why and point you in the right direction. So if you have any questions, if you have any ideas for future podcasts or guests, feel free to send me a note at podcast@theleadershipsignal.com. Website's not quite up yet. Still working on that, and that's going to take me a little while. I've got a lot of plates that I'm balancing at the moment, and yet eventually it'll be there. So hopefully we will see you next time, and until then, this has been The Leadership Signal. Tune in and amplify your voice. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.